Hi, everyone. This is Sarah Cook with USG eCampus again, and we're going to go ahead and get started with our affiliate onboarding for the Georgia FinTech Academy with Georgia Southwestern. So today what we're going to do is have an overview of the FinTech Academy, how it operates. We will review the student support services that are available to the Georgia Southwestern students that are enrolled in this courses, as well as some technical components regarding registration, banner, and ingress will be overviewed by my colleague, Ashley Reese. Again, my name is Sarah Cook, and I am the Executive Director of Academics for USG eCampus, as well as an Associate Professor of Political Science at Albany State University. If you have a moment, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box, that would be great. And if you're joining via telephone, if you'll email us, we will add you in as an attendee as well. This presentation is being recorded, and it will be available for anyone that was unable to attend in person, as well as anyone that would like to listen to it again, probably tomorrow. It takes some time to upload it into YouTube. We will send out a link as well as a PDF of the presentation slides. Just a kind of a housekeeping note, as I'm presenting or talking, and since I'm sharing my screen, I am sort of flying blind, so to speak. So if you are typing a question in the chat box, please feel free to interrupt me. As my colleague Ashley Reese will be monitoring it as well, she can interrupt as well if you do not have a microphone or the ability to speak. So we're going to get started now with the FinTech Academy overview. So I know many of you on this today at GSW recognize almost all the names. I know they are very familiar with how eCampus operates. So this is just kind of a reminder that eCampus encompasses eCore as well as eMajor. And FinTech Academy is a subset, so we are supporting the FinTech Academy simply as academic program managers. So whereas for some of our other degree programs that are collaborative under the eMajor heading, we take on more of a assist with some decision making as well as coordination. With the FinTech Academy, we do not do that, as most of the decisions are made at the system office as well as with the FinTech Academy Curriculum Leadership Committee. So we're simply facilitators of these sort of high demand boutique courses. There are presently 8 FinTech Academy courses that are available this fall 2020. 5 of them are the Georgia State courses, as well as some additional courses out of Middle Georgia State. We'll review those in the next slide. But just some background on how this all kind of started. So about 2 years ago, the FinTech Academy sent out an RFQ, or RFP, request for proposals, I guess more than a request for quotes, but our request for proposals, and institutions submitted ideas of developing courses within this FinTech Academy area. And so it's this kind of study of finance and this cross-section of technology as well. And institutions submitted proposals. And so now what we're seeing are those courses being launched either through the collaborative, which is the case for the Georgia State courses as well as the Middle Georgia courses, as well as some are being launched locally. So Valdosta State has some courses that are focused on SAS programming as well as data analytics, and they're launching those locally and may bring them out under the collaborative offering if enough institutions affiliate or are interested. Kennesaw State is working on digital processing, and so they're launching theirs locally this fall as well, and are keeping the Curriculum Leadership Committee updated on their progress. Middle Georgia State has the associate's degree and a sort of an associate level certificate in FinTech, and they're also doing coding. And they have a broader agreement with the Department of Education as well on offering those out to dual enrolled students. So it's up to institutions to elect which courses they would like to offer, and then they build additional certifications or credentials around a FinTech core. All the students enrolled in the eMajor courses through the FinTech Academy have all the other benefits that all of our other eMajor students get. This should be no surprise, as GSW's partnered with eMajor on many initiatives. So they have the same credit hour tuition rate, and it's all online, though some of the FinTech Academy courses do have synchronous components where the faculty member likes to meet for exact periods of time throughout the term. They also have the dedicated student success coaches, as well as free online tutoring via tutor.com. How does it work? Well, it works like all the other collaborative courses offered under eCampus. So they're available through your institutional registration processes. And right now with the 5 FinTech core courses, they're all available. So the instructors are all presently from Georgia State, but students from all across the system and all the collaborating partner institutions have students enrolled in these courses. We are using our collaborative assets, so they are in our GoView learning management system, which is where all of our other eCore and eMajor courses are available. They do follow our collaborative academic calendar. And presently, all of the courses right now are full session. And here's a snapshot of all of the participating FinTech Academy institutions. So this week we onboarded University of West Georgia, as well as obviously Georgia Southwestern. And we're looking at adding a few more, including Augusta State, as well as the University of Georgia in the fall. So here's the slide I was promising a few back, the FinTech Core. Those are the 4,000 level courses offered out or originally launched at Georgia State locally and now through this collaborative offering. 3 of the courses are very finance related. The other 2 are more technology, information technology courses. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that there are additional courses available this fall through Middle Georgia as well. And there are also going to be a few more from Middle Georgia available in the spring to make out their associate's degree. And the FinTech Core are offered every single term. So these courses are sent to your institution with no prereqs. That makes many of us in higher ed a little squeamish, I understand. So in lieu of prereqs, we have found that we use advising parameters, and institutions, of course, have the authority to implement whatever restrictions on enrollment that they're comfortable with. So students that make good candidates for these programs are usually from a business, finance, mathematics, computer science, IT, cybersecurity type of background. They very much would have normally the right competencies going in. Also, we see architecturally, wherever these courses are put into existing degree programs on campuses, that students would naturally already have many of the proper prereqs or competencies based on where these are placed, meaning if they're upper level electives in a BBA program, then your students have already naturally matriculated through those prereqs. So we do get drilled down to exact competencies that students should have, and they're listed on the screen. Income statement, balance sheet, cash flows, time value of money calculations, evaluate capital budgeting projects, describe stocks and bonds and values. And we are working on some, so Valdosta State is actually working on making tutorials that provide these competencies. So if a student has had a gap in education and they're entering these FinTech core courses, they would have this material embedded in the course in some modules, and they could then freshen up on them, on these types of competencies. Also, we've hoped to launch these through a free core model, which if you're familiar with free core, it is a component of eCampus which provides kind of self-guided tutorials that help students gain knowledge and competencies and prepare them for some challenge exams or some CLEP courses, CLEP exams. So we're hoping to do these in that same way. So if a student is interested in this area of study, but perhaps has either had a stop out or did not have maybe the exact courses, they could educate themselves and get up to speed prior to enrolling in the courses. That's just some ideas we're working on as well to ensure student success. Now we're going to go over just some of our basic student support services. This is going to be very familiar to most of you at GSW. So one of the things that we are doing is for the FinTech Academy is customized enrollment support services. So if a student is interested and they can request more information, and we will provide them guidance on which institution may provide the credential they're seeking within this FinTech Academy realm. So it's really important that as we move forward with GSW onboarding that we're aware of exactly how you're using these courses and what credentials you're offering students. That way we can then steer students your way for sure. And as we're already partnering with the BBA, this is a very natural fit. So we have lots of, so we help the system office with many of the system websites like GOML. And so we get a lot of inquiries. And so we're able to then steer students towards these types of programs and courses. Of course, students in these FinTech Academy, I call them boutique courses, they get all of our regular realm of student support services. We do our early intervention system. So through SEEDS, our homegrown system, we do academic outreach and coaching when faculty members report students as at risk. Also, we do our outreach prior to the term. So in the first week of classes for no logins. And some of these FinTech courses do have proctored exams. And so we do reach out to students prior to that proctored exam window to ensure that they are properly registered and ready to take that proctored exam. And unlike eCore, eMajor, the collaboratives and the collaborative courses and the collaborative programs, we have maintained our gated withdrawal system. We have found that it is helpful for us to understand why students are withdrawing. We are able to then identify if it is an issue with the course, the structure, is it too difficult or students not properly advised or prepared for them. So we are maintaining that gated withdrawal system for these FinTech Academy courses as well. So the students also get all of our resources that are embedded in our online learning management system. They have online tutoring, which effective summer is tutor.com. They have embedded library services, so that's the USG librarians that are embedded in all of our courses. They can help students with identifying proper course material or like research materials, or also with citation services. They can help students make sure they avoid plagiarism and research items like that. We also have our learning management system tutorials that are available to students. You know, research shows if students know if the technology is not a barrier, they tend to do really pretty well in online courses. They tend to do better anyway if they're acclimated to the technology that is used. So we do have our e-connection tutorials and other ways that we try to help students prepare. And of course, our help desk is assisting and supporting students in these courses. So the policies and procedures are going to be the same for eMajor collaboratives as they are for these courses. So I'm sure you are all familiar with how that works. So if there's academic dishonesty, the faculty member reports a student. The student has the appeal window, and then after that is resolved, then the report is made available to the student's home institution. Grade appeals, which occur after the term, are vetted through the eCampus processes and procedures, and then if they are not resolved through up to the executive director level, then it goes to an ad hoc committee of faculty, and their decision is turned over to the student's home institution for local procedure. Student complaints, we also handle those and vet those throughout the term, as we have access to the learning management system and can review all issues and hopefully resolve them pretty quickly. The attendance verification and grade due dates are also part of our collaborative processes and are done according to our shared collaborative calendar. So what doesn't change? Your registration procedure. So these courses will appear just like any other course for students to self-register on your campus. Your financial aid and payment deadlines, you will adhere to your GSW policies. And then your drop versus withdrawal for absent students will also be your GSW policies. I'm going to now turn it over to my colleague, Ashley Reese, to review some technical components as they relate to registration and banner and ingress.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Ashley Reese, and I am the Collaborative Program Support Specialist for eCampus. Basically, what that means is I work with our partner institutions just to ensure everything is set up and flowing correctly between the banner systems on your campus and the Ingress and GoView systems on our side as well. So work very closely with institutions on that, and I recognize most of your names. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to cover a few different things today. We'll talk a little more detail about specific pieces of banner setup, and then we'll go through some of the term processes as well. So initially, when you're setting up banner, a few things to consider is first, part of term. As Sarah mentioned, these courses do follow the Common Academic Calendar, and the core courses are full session, and if you choose to adopt any of those additional courses, like the Middle Georgia courses, those parts of term may fluctuate a little bit depending on their course offerings and how they have those courses set up. But those Common Core courses are full session, and you have a couple of choices when you determine which part of term you would like to use for these courses. And some of those decisions will depend on how you have your parts of term set up and what they affect on your campus. So listed there, that $199 per credit hour, the tuition rate, it really makes a difference on how you process your tuition on campus. If your tuition is at all tied to a part of term, that's one thing to keep in mind when you're selecting which part of term to use for these courses. A lot of institutions we see are using the same part of term for these courses as they use for their other eCampus courses if they participate in eMajor. And if you do have anything tied to your tuition rate, that should not affect the problem since it's the same, or should not cause a problem because it's the same tuition rate. However, if you do have a different tuition rate, or I'm sorry, a different part of term that you would like to use, you can certainly do so. One other thing to consider, one other thing to consider is, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, my son came in and interrupted. One other thing to consider with the part of term is whether or not it will affect any kind of reporting on your campus. So a lot of times the part of term is an easy way to identify certain courses. So if you want to use that as a factor in your reporting, just keep that in mind as well. Then, as Sarah mentioned previously, there is the gated withdrawal process. And so we do ask that you restrict students from withdrawing themselves in banner. And the way you do that is you would not define the withdrawal code in SFAR-STS that students would use to withdraw on their own. And then one little piece here that's different for the FinTech Academy than for other eCampus programs is that students are not required to complete the introduction quiz for these courses. That could potentially change in the future, but at this time, that is not a requirement. A couple of other factors to keep in mind when you're setting up these courses is that some of these will have scheduled virtual class meetings. And what that means, the course is still 100% online. However, they could have scheduled meetings on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock. And typically those are recorded if a student cannot make that particular class meeting. But it does give a little extra way for students and instructors to connect together in these online courses and to work on like group projects and things like that. Also, these courses may have proctored exams. Some do, but not all. So that is another thing that we will mention on the course schedule each term, just to make sure they're coded correctly in Banner. And then, of course, some of these will be open educational resources and some will require a textbook. So you will need to pay attention to that schedule to include any low-cost, no-cost attributes. And it is up to your bookstore whether or not they wish to carry any textbooks that are required, or if students will need to make special requests or purchase their third party. So for specific section setup, I believe GSW has already had these courses approved through governance, so that makes this process much simpler. You will simply, when the schedule is sent out, you'll simply build the FTA courses in Banner, and you will need to pay very close attention to the subject, course number, and section numbers. Those must match exactly for all of the systems, Banner, Ingress, and GoView, to work together properly. The integration partner code will also need to be entered as I receive, and that is the piece in Banner that tells Ingress that it can process this course. So it's a very important piece. We've already discussed part of term quite extensively, so we'll skip that. But seats are going to be assigned by Ingress. So if you're familiar at all with other eMajor programs or eCore, you will know that the seat balancer every 10 minutes will collect all seats from all institutions, balance them out, and then redistribute them to everyone. So if a student sees that there's only one seat, if they wait just a few minutes, there may be additional seats assigned once that seat balancer has finished. And then, of course, if there are any meeting times, you would need to enter those. Definitely leave the instructor blank. That is assigned by the sending institution, and really that just keeps every partner institution from having to create multiple instructors that are not actually employed by your institution in Banner. So if a student is questioning what instructor is teaching a class, that can be found on the eMajor website. And then, of course, we will send suggested course comments for each course, which would include information about those proctored exams, class meetings, all of that sort of information. And you can definitely edit those to make them more applicable to your students, but we do ask that you at least kind of touch base on those specific components so that students are aware of what is required before they register for a course. So now for the different processes that are related to these courses. Many of you are familiar with what we call ZIS or GDIS, and that is the Banner process that that populates a temporary table in Banner and allows Ingress to pull new information. So it initiates that seat balancer the first time a course is built, and then it also will move any registration changes or person information changes to that temporary table to be pulled into Ingress and GoView. So it's incredibly important that that process is run so that students gain access to their classes quickly. And Ingress will check that temporary table for any changes every single hour. That doesn't mean you have to run the process on an hourly basis, but as often as you can run the process, that's better. And of course, I think most institutions at this point have an auto job to run this process so that it's not forgotten over the term. So just a quick snapshot of how the term processes kind of flow throughout the semester. Obviously, a student would register, And then 2 weeks before classes begin, we will begin sending welcome emails to students every single day. So anyone who adds a new course would receive that welcome email on whichever day they add that, or the next day. Then on the first day of class, students will gain access to their course. During week 2, typically, is when attendance is verified by instructors. After that point, students can withdraw from the courses through that gated withdrawal process. And then, of course, at the end of the term is final grades. So once attendance has been verified, there are a couple of ways that it can be processed into Banner. It can be a manual process where institutions pull the list of absent students straight from an Ingress report and then manually process them in Banner to drop or withdraw them. Most institutions use these Banner processes that are listed here, and the first process will pull those records for absent students into a temporary table, and then the second process will actually drop or withdraw the students based on whatever parameters you enter into that job. And then we have a few campuses who also have homegrown campus processes to run that attendance job as well. So whatever works best for you is certainly okay with us. We just ask that those get processed usually within a week so that students are not confused about why they thought they were marked absent, but they were never actually removed from the class. And then we see the situation where students have been working, but then they're removed after they've completed a number of assignments. And then we will have a billing date. We call it our census date, and that is based on your campus's non-payment date. So we do ask for those dates towards the beginning of the semester, and that just ensures that any drops on your end have been processed before we bill you for students that will actually not be in the courses. We also at that time request special populations like TAP students, 62 plus waivers, move on when ready, those sorts of student groups so that they can be removed from billing for accuracy as well. And we've already discussed the gated withdrawal process, how that works from a student side, but from a processing side, there will be a campus representative who's identified to process these withdrawals. It could be a person who is already completing that task for the other programs through eCampus, or it could be somebody new. That's really up to you guys. But that person will have a secure account where they log in to retrieve those withdrawals and process them in Banner. And then similarly, someone at the institution will be identified to process grades at the end of the term. Typically, that is one person for each campus because this job is term driven. So once you run it for one program, it pulls in grades for every program. And it's a very simple job. You run it and the grades populate to the Banner tables, and then they can be rolled by your institution. One thing to keep in mind if you're looking at the Common Academic Calendar is that whenever instructors post final grades in Ingress for these courses, they will not be available for your institution to pull into Banner until the next day. There is some background processing on the ITS side that has to happen before they are pushed out to Banner systems. Okay, and here we have a couple of resources for you guys. Many of you may be familiar with these already, but of course the eMajor website has some great information for students, especially. And then we have an eMajor administration site, and that houses things like the Policy and Procedures Guide. It has archived calendars, archived schedules, and enrollment data there if you are ever interested in any of those items. There's also a link there to the SEEDS portal, and that is where institutions would log in to retrieve those withdrawals and other information like any academic honesty reports or any at-risk students. There's a report there for those as well. And then something that's relatively new, it's a year or two old, is the eCampus knowledge base. And this has a lot of great information for our partners. Includes things like documentation on those term processes that we discussed, and there's also a section specific to student documentation, and it has information about how a student would withdraw, student could set up GoView notifications or sync their calendars. And it's handy because you can just link a student in an email to that specific site with instructions and screenshots to help them navigate some of the processes that are a little bit different than what they're used to on your campus. And that is all that we had for you today, but we certainly have time for questions. If you have questions later, our contact information is there, but please feel free to speak up or enter any questions into the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those to the best of our ability. Any questions at all?
Hey, this is Danja.
Hi, Danja.
Hey, question about the proctored exams. We use ProctorU exclusively. Can we force our students to use ProctorU exclusively in these courses?
Hi, this is Sarah Cook. I can speak to that. So the way that these were set up, the proctored exams last time were set up via exclusively ProctorU for one of the courses, and the other courses allowed ProctorU or their institutional site. We could, I can check with testing to see, because the one course did allow for any USG local testing center. So I can check with testing to see if they can require ProctorU only for GSW.
We'd rather not open that door to other testing.
Yeah, I can check on it for sure for you and get back with you.
And Christy, I think it's *6 if you need to unmute your phone.
Okay, so with all this is Christy, with all of the fall fee rule changes that were released out a couple weeks ago by the USG, is FinTech capping at 15 credit hours along with eMajor and eCore?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Y'all have any more questions? Well, I thank y'all for your time. This is Sarah Cook again. I'm going to tomorrow provide a recording of the presentation as well as a PDF of the slide deck. And I'll get back on the testing question and provide that information as well. Thank y'all so much for your time, and I hope you have a good day.